Welcome to our next Techniques in 2 Minutes video, and this one is on the concept of voice. So, when we talk about what voice is, this is referring to two things. First is your authorial voice, so your voice as a writer, as well as narrative voice, and that is a voice that is adopted by a narrator who could also be a tangible character, as well as character voices. So, when we talk about what authorial voice is, this is actually comprised of a number of features. These include diction, which is your vocabulary, the words you choose, and syntax, which is the way that you put them together to make sentences. This also includes lexicon, which is the kind of words that you choose, the connotations that you utilize words for, as well as semantics, the meanings that you choose them for. But this also includes more sort of functional things like sentence length, punctuation choice that you make, and those sorts of things. When we talk about narrative voice, we're really talking about a concept called persona, and that is an identity that a writer will adopt for the telling of a particular story. And character is the voice that is established for a given entity within a story. So the persona that you adopt is whatever the narrative voice is. Now, this may be very close to your authorial voice, especially if you're writing nonfiction or confessional style poetry. It may be far away from your voice if you're writing in the first person narrative of a character who is very different from who you are. But then every character themselves, whether they are a first person narrator, a character that is not the first person narrator, a third person voice that is sort of the narrative voices on the shoulders of, they all have their own voices as well. And both of these are inclusive of that list of things that we talked about previously. Diction, lexicon, connotation, semantics, sentence lengths, and punctuation all apply to all of these voices. And this is what can make articulating a lot of thoughts about voice really tricky, because they're more a Venn diagram in terms of authorial voice and then the voices adopted within a work, as opposed to two completely separate columns on a chart. They often will overlap because we as the writers have our style that we're using to create these personas and these characters. But we do want to try to think about what those voices are separate from who we are. And then the other thing is that character voice itself will include the dialogue and direct thoughts that you give to those characters. So when you're thinking about what you are, the characters you're writing, and you're giving them speech and you're giving them thoughts, think about what kind of voice you're establishing through those as well. Now, the other thing that voice includes when we're talking large scale picture is a consideration of point of view. So the question is, who is telling the story and to whom are they telling it? Now, what does this teller know is something that you want to think about. What do they not? And can we trust them? Many of you have probably heard of the concept of an unreliable narrator. And so we have to think as writers, do we want our readers to trust this person, this character, this narrator? What do they know? What do they not know? And that affects how we tell the story and what point of view that we choose. Now, there are a number of different points of view. Probably the most popular are first person singular, the I narrator, who is usually a character, the third person singular, he, she, it, they, and then the second person singular you, which is sort of a unique frame through which stories can be told. But I would also encourage you to think about some of the less popular but interesting points of view that can get used. This collective first person we, where a group of characters is telling the story, or a third person group not narrator, but point of view they, where a narrator is sort of pushing the story through a collective group of people, not but their voice is not the narrative voice. And then the collective second person, you all do this, you all think this. Some of these are a little trickier to make work, but I encourage you to think about possibilities with utilizing them. And so, like I said, experiment and revise to see what works. Every story has its ideal point of view, but you really can't figure out what that is unless you do some experimentation. So what I always encourage people to do is, once they've settled into a point of view or a voice, try taking maybe one page of the thing that you've written or one stanza of your poem, if that's what you've written, and try recalculating it into a new point of view, just to see if it changes the narrative in a way that you think might be functional. And that's just a quick bit about voice.